I am the princess consort of Prince Rui, who endured 3 years of exile alongside him, suffering every hardship imaginable. Upon returning to the capital, he brought back his long-lost love. Everyone said I held no favor in Prince Rui's eyes, that I was merely a princess consort in name only, destined to keep an empty bed. Yet I did not care. After all that effort to return to the capital, the position of princess consort, the splendor and wealth, the power in my hands, which of these doesn't outweigh the prince's measly 2 tales of sincerity? On the very day of our return, the prince brought back his white moonlight. That woman, named Qiu Yu, once saved the prince on the mountain, and he fell for her at first sight. Not only did the prince place Qiu Yu in the Yaoguang pavilion, second only to the main courtyard, showered her with countless treasures. The entire capital awaited my downfall, all because Prince Rui had once angered the emperor and been exiled to Guazhou. Qiu Yu immediately distanced herself, taking the treasures Prince Rui had given her and vanishing. It was I, his consort, who endured 3 years of hardship with him in Guazhou. Yet upon our return, just as we should have enjoyed our fortune, Qiu Yu snatched Prince Rui away again. Everyone says I hold the title of consort in name only, deprived of favor and affection, left alone in an empty chamber. But I couldn't care less. Prince Rui is timid by nature. During our exile, I made every decision, great and small. After 3 years, the loyal servants exiled with us looked to me for guidance. Now back in the capital, everyone in the mansion holds me in even greater esteem. The estates returned to the mansion are all in my hands. Managing them will be even more effortless than before. My dowry and personal assets have been returned in full, not a single coin missing. Moreover, our marriage was decreed by imperial edict. My position as princess consort is as solid as a rock. Even if Prince Rui favors his concubines, no one in this mansion can surpass my authority. Besides, I finally returned to the capital. The title of princess consort brought glory, wealth, and power. Which of these wasn't worth more than his measly 2 tales of sincerity? At noon, while I was napping, Qiu Yu knelt outside my courtyard, aching under the scorching sun. Her eyes reddened as she begged my forgiveness, claiming she was the one who caused the capital's gossip about me. Yet she swore her devotion to Prince Rui was genuine. She sought no forgiveness, only to remain in the mansion to catch a glimpse of the prince, even if it meant serving me as a beast of burden. My nap was disturbed, and my mood was already sour. Qiu Yu persisted in her clamor outside the courtyard. I ordered her to kneel on the gravel path in the garden, forbidding her to rise until the sun set. If kneeling pleased her, I'd let her kneel to her heart's content. Before a stick of incense burned out, a maid reported Qiu Yu had fainted. I dismissed her, returning to my book. Soon after, Prince Rui stormed in, his fury palpable. He confronted me directly. Xiao Tan, I knew you were ruthless, but I never imagined you could be so cruel. I was the one who brought you into this household. If you can't tolerate her, I won't let you off lightly. I didn't even lift my head, staring at the book in my hands, finding it rather amusing. It was Qiu Yu who chose to kneel. What business was it of mine? When he was demoted and exiled, Qiu Yu abandoned him. Now that he's risen to power and wealth, she's crawling back. Any clear-eyed person could see what Qiu Yu was up to. Only Prince Rui had muddled thinking. Seeing my silence, his anger flared. I'm speaking to you. Did you hear me? Go pour tea for Qiu Yu and apologize now, and I'll let this drop. Hearing this, I finally lifted my gaze to give him a faint, cold glance. Has the sun's heat warmed your brain, Your Highness? Or did the chill winds on our journey back to the capital scorch your mind? Qiu Yu, a mere concubine, dared trespass into the main courtyard and insult me first. My punishment was merely a small deterrent for a greater lesson. 3 years in Guazhou, and you still haven't learned to watch your words and actions. I am the Empress, bestowed upon me by His Majesty the Emperor, and you dare demand I pour tea for a concubine and apologize. Could it be your highness seeks to displease the emperor once more, hoping for another demotion? If so, I make no promise we'll both return alive. My words were blunt, and Prince Rui's face turned ashen. Yet he had no rebuttal. At 4 years old, my father invited a great scholar to be my tutor. He personally instructed me in poetry, prose, military strategy, and even court politics. The master once remarked that had I been born a son, I would surely have made a name for myself in the imperial court. Yet I knew that the tallest tree in the forest is the first to be struck by the wind, so I concealed my talents for over a decade. Prince Rui possessed a timid nature, unfit for the throne. Thus, the emperor selected me, a consort of humble origins and seemingly docile Demianordo, be bestowed upon him in marriage. Those 3 years in Guazhou were fraught with hardship and peril. Prince Rui proved utterly unreliable. It was I who exhausted my wits and strength to safeguard everyone's safety. Rough repeated scheming and planning. I finally seized an opportunity to return to the capital. All I've done is plain for all to see, and Prince Rui knows it well. He was so enraged he nearly fell backward. Yet every word I spoke was true. Now that we've just returned to the capital, the situation here remains unclear. The Prince Rui's residence must still proceed with caution. Knowing he was in the wrong, he gave a cold snort and stormed off. I couldn't be bothered to spare him a single glance. Exiled for 3 years, as his consort, I was in the same boat as him. Otherwise, why would I have shielded someone like him? That evening, Qiu Yu awoke. Hearing her knee was swollen and red, Prince Rui was heartbroken. Once again, treasures flowed like water into Yaoguang Pavilion. The maids serving in Yaoguang Pavilion were all newly purchased. At noon, when the heat was at its peak, Qiu Yu rewarded each of them with a bowl of chilled plum soup. Now, the voices of young maids drifted outside my courtyard. They said Qiu Yu was so favored, the apple of Prince Rui's eye. Her treasures were piling up, overflowing the Yaoguang Pavilion. Her personal maid immediately punished the 2 young maids and sent them away. I let the corners of my mouth turn up. Seems Qiu Yu still hasn't learned her lesson, daring to provoke me again. With the imperial envoys arriving tomorrow, a plan instantly formed in my mind. No need for me to lift a finger this time. I'll make her and Prince Rui reap what they sow. The next morning, I rose before dawn to prepare. With Prince Rui returning to the capital, the mansion required reorganization. The emperor dispatched Lady Zhou, a court attendant, to assist the household in inventorying the confiscated items. Some were imperial gifts, details unknown to Prince Rui, who rarely managed the estate. If Lady Zhou discovered that, on the very first day back in the capital, these imperial gifts had barely returned to the mansion before ending up in a concubine's quarters, well, that would be quite the spectacle. The current emperor was born to the empress, but from childhood, the late emperor had favored the imperial consort, neglecting both him and the empress dowager. This led to a miserable childhood for him. Thus, he deeply despised the practice of favoring concubines over wives. Sure enough, upon discovering this, Matron Zhou's expression froze. Yet, having weathered countless storms within the palace walls, she completed the inventory without a flicker of emotion before returning to the palace. By evening, the emperor's edict punishing Qiu Yu and Prince Rui reached the mansion. At that moment, Qiu Yu was paying her respects and offering tea in the main courtyard. She leaned gracefully, delicate as a willow in the breeze. It is this concubine's unworthy body that caused the prince to misunderstand the princess yesterday. It is all my fault. I intended to come and offer tea to sister early this morning, but the prince, mindful of my leg injury, delayed it until now. I hope the princess will forgive me. Her eyes were lowered in apparent humility, yet her words dripped with smugness and provocation. Seated at the head of the table, I watched her triumphant expression and let a faint smile touch my lips. She flaunted Prince Rui's favor toward her, hoping to provoke me. Had I been the impulsive sort to lash out, it would only have deepened Prince Rui's distaste for her. But she miscalculated. I harbored not a shred of affection for Prince Rui. It was she who, no sooner had she spoken, turned ashen-faced at the sudden imperial decree and the palace attendants who followed. Qiu Yu was restrained, received 20 strokes of the cane, and was carried back to Yaoguang Pavilion. Prince Rui was also reprimanded by the emperor, stripped of 3 months' allowance, and slunk out of the main courtyard. I couldn't care less about either of them. I immediately ordered servants to Yaoguang Pavilion to retrieve all the items Prince Rui had sent over. The rest didn't matter. But this staggering fortune, how could I let others share in it? What wasn't hers? I'd make her spit out. Prince Rui and I entered the palace to pay our respects. Upon our return that day, we had only briefly kowtowed to the emperor at the palace gates. His Majesty decreed that, weary from our journey, we should return to rest first and present ourselves again in 2 days. Prince Rui never engaged in factional strife. 3 years prior, had merely been dragged into the fray, forced to take the fall for others. The emperor knew there were hidden circumstances back then, but his frustration ran deeper, like a parent disappointed in an unfulfilling child. He never held high expectations for Prince Rui, yet the prince still managed to disappoint him profoundly. During his years in exile, Prince Rui endured immense hardship. Now, upon his return to the capital, the emperor restored all the confiscated family assets. Yesterday's incident was merely a minor punishment meant as a stern warning. It seemed the emperor still harbored some remorse. I presented the gift I had prepared in advance. The emperor stroked his beard and nodded with satisfaction. In a particularly good mood, he bestowed generous rewards, praised me as a capable servant, and even gave me a set of head ornaments as a personal gift. My heart stirred slightly. The emperor held me in high regard, a promising sign. Next, we proceeded to the palace of Prince Rui's birth mother. Lady Lin Jieyu had been waiting at the palace gate. Her eyes welled up when she saw Prince Rui. After a brief conversation between mother and son, Lady Lin Jieyu suddenly addressed me. I have heard of yesterday's incident. While Yuer was in the wrong, you too bear some fault. As his lawful wife, you should have guided your husband through gentle counsel. How could such a matter escalate to the emperor's ears? Her smile masked reproach and warning in her eyes. I sneered inwardly, responding with measured indifference. Your Highness speaks wisely, yet I merely followed your own teachings. When the prince takes a concubine, should I, his princess consort, stand in his way? Would that not make me a jealous woman, defying the very lessons you imparted? Before my exile, Prince Rui insisted on petitioning for Qiu Yu to be granted the title of secondary consort. Yet at that time, the emperor was overwhelmed by the border conflicts. After careful consideration, I advised him to wait a while longer. When Lady Lin Jieyu learned of this, she insinuated that I was jealous. Now she blames me for not dissuading Prince Rui. She twists every word to her advantage. How amusing. Lady Lin paused, clearly not expecting my bluntness. She was about to erupt, but I cut her off. Mother, earlier at father's side, he praised his daughter-in-law. This is all thanks to your teachings. Invoking the emperor's name, Lin Jieyu could only swallow her anger. It was only natural for the Prince of Rui's birth mother to feel distressed over his punishment, but to shift the blame onto me and take it out on me, that was unacceptable. No sooner had I returned to the prince's residence than another incident arose. Within a single night, Qiu Yu's wound had become severely infected and suppurated. Prince Rui hurried to Yaoguang Pavilion, but I had no time to concern myself with them. More pressing matters demanded my attention. Father's letter revealed that 3 years ago, when Prince Rui was exiled, though my maternal family escaped direct punishment, we still suffered repercussions. At court, father has been gradually sidelined, no longer holding the emperor's favor as before. Having reached the rank of 3rd grade, his prospects for advancement have vanished. Now, with my younger brother about to take the imperial examinations, his prospects must not be jeopardized. I understood my father's reasoning. Prince Rui's return to the capital signaled that the emperor's anger had subsided. I must leverage my position as the prince consort to find an opportune moment and help my father regain the emperor's favor. The emperor's birthday. Why was in 2 days? After some thought, I decided this presented a favorable opportunity. No sooner had I made my plans than a servant from Prince Rui's quarters arrived. He demanded without preamble that I hand over the century-old ginseng from my dowry. It turned out the physician had declared Qiu Yu's injuries too severe, her condition critical, requiring the century-old ginseng to sustain her life. Leaning against the reclining couch, I could only think Qiu Yu's scheme was utterly preposterous. Yao Guang Pavilion had long been under surveillance by my own agents. On my way back, I had already learned the truth. This entire ordeal was Qiu Yu's ploy. To make it convincing, she had even endured the pain of applying a small dose of medicinal powder to her wounds. Her scheme targeted my dowry. That century-old ginseng root was a priceless treasure, passed down from my maternal grandmother, something she could never hope to possess. I immediately dispatched someone to fetch Dr. Zhang from the southern part of the city. His master had once served as an imperial physician in the palace, and he himself was a highly skilled practitioner, renowned throughout the capital. Yet no one knew that years ago, when Dr. Zhang's mother lay dying, the life-saving decoction lacked one crucial ingredient. That ingredient was this very century-old ginseng. When Dr. Zhang pleaded with my family, my mother didn't hesitate. She cut a strand of the ginseng root to save his mother. Only then did she pull through. I brought Dr. Zhang to the Yaoguang Pavilion, and Qiu Yu panicked. Yet with Prince Rui standing nearby, she had no choice but to extend her wrist for the physician to take her pulse. After feeling Qiu Yu's pulse, a flash of anger crossed Dr. Zhang's face. He saw through Qiu Yu's little trick and said impatiently, "Qiu Yu's injury cannot be treated with potent tonics. The infected area simply needs to be excised." Qiu Yu panicked at this and immediately protested. I raised an eyebrow. Could it be that Sister Qiu Yu is perfectly fine? Was it Prince Kuang and I who were injured? Prince Rui shot Qiu Yu a suspicious look. Qiu Yu, needing Prince Rui's favor to maintain her standing in the mansion, had no choice but to swallow her pride. I turned and left Yaoguang Pavilion, listening to Qiu's wails as I slowly curved my lips into a smile. Dr. Zhang had made it clear he wouldn't assist me in any unconscionable deeds, but he detested people like Qiu Yu, and most of all, a century-old ginseng root was a vital life-saving herb. How could he let her administer it so deceitfully, so easily? Dr. Zhang wasn't without other treatment options, but he wanted to teach Qiu Yu a lesson, to make her remember it well, and that was precisely what I wanted to see. Since she was so fond of the ploy of feigning suffering, I would help her turn it into reality. After having the rotten flesh carved from her buttocks, Qiu Yu finally quieted down these past 2 days, temporarily ceasing her mischief. The mansion grew much quieter. Over 2 months passed without incident until the emperor's birthday arrived. Earlier, during the heat wave, I specially dispatched men to transport fruits from Guazhou to the capital. They were crafted into an icy beverage to quench thirst and beat the heat, which my father then presented to the emperor. His unique climate yields exceptionally delicious melons and fruits, making the iced drink all the more exquisite. The emperor was greatly pleased and lavished praise upon my father. Before the birthday celebration, I had my father request leave from the emperor, citing an injury sustained in official duties. I was to present the carefully prepared gift at the emperor's birthday banquet. At this moment, the grand hall resounded with music and dance, cups clinking and toasts exchanged. One by one, the guests presented their birthday gifts. When my turn came, I had attendants present a massive crystal basin. Within it lay a gem-encrusted shell. Upon it stood a lifelike shell carving depicting the landscapes and culture of Guazhou. Behind it, the characters' longevity like southern mountains stood majestically, flanked by dancing dragons and phoenixes. The emperor's eyes lit up. He immediately ordered my gift brought before him for close inspection. He inquired where I had found such a masterpiece of craftsmanship. I promptly knelt. "Neither humble nor arrogant, Your Majesty," I replied. "Upon learning of your birthday, I sought a delicate object to please you. But Your Majesty, as the Son of Heaven, has surely seen every treasure imaginable. Your humble son could only resort to ingenuity, learning the art of shell carving to personally engrave these landscapes upon it. May your majesty's blessings be as vast as the eastern sea, and your longevity as enduring as the southern mountains. May the great Jin dynasty's realm endure for 10,000 generations. The emperor's countenance brightened greatly, and he praised it 3 times over. I humbly replied that I had learned this craft from my father, who had once served as a local official in the Jiangsu-Zhejiang region and picked up a few basics. The emperor nodded, his gaze upon me filled with satisfaction, knowing that too much of a good thing could be detrimental. I stopped there. This one instance was sufficient. During the floods that once ravaged the Jiangnan region, my father served in Jiangsu and Zhejiang. In those 2 years, the casualties among the people of Jiangnan were the lowest. I only mentioned it briefly. That the emperor could recall even a fragment of my father's merits was sufficient. My father's recent attentiveness, coupled with his leave of absence due to an injury sustained in the line of duty, would surely stir the emperor's compassion. Everything else would fall into place naturally. Soon, in the imperial court, the emperor specifically inquired about my father's governance proposals. I let a faint smile touch my lips. It seemed all the effort hadn't been wasted. Just after reading the letter, a maid from Lady Liang's quarters suddenly arrived at the main courtyard, kneeling to beg me to save their mistress. The maid said a slow-acting poison had been laced into Qiu Yu's food. Once the scandal erupted, all fingers pointed at Lady Liang, a woman who had always lived quietly, avoiding conflict. Upon learning this, Prince Rui flew into a rage. To avenge Qiu Yu, he demanded Lady Liang be sold off immediately. Hearing this, I couldn't help but frown. Lady Liang had sold herself to bury her father and enter the prince's household. She was gentle by nature. During her 3 years of exile, she never caused any trouble, quietly managing affairs and serving Prince Rui. To put it bluntly, her contributions these past 3 years have been greater than Prince Rui's. When I reached Lady Liang's quarters, she knelt on the ground, her forehead swollen and red. Several servants were dragging her, already bound and gagged. The matchmaker stood waiting nearby. Qiu Yu stood behind Prince Rui, her eyes gleaming with undisguised cunning and triumph. A chill rose in my heart, and I barked a sharp command. Stop. Everyone present froze. I ordered someone to help Lady Liang up, then fixed my gaze on Qiu Yu. After over 2 months of recuperation, she was finally able to walk again, but she shouldn't have started causing trouble the moment she felt better. Prince Rui frowned, his voice sharp. What is the princess consort doing? Am I not even allowed to deal with a lowly concubine in my own mansion? I shot Prince Rui a dismissive glance. Unwilling to engage, my hand shot out, landing a sharp slap across Qiu Yu's face. I've turned a blind eye to your past misdeeds, choosing not to pursue them, but you crossed the line when you set your sights on Lady Liang. She accompanied His Highness through 3 years of exile, serving him tirelessly and diligently without a single misstep. If not for her merits, then at least for her endurance. And you, when trouble befell His Highness, you absconded with the money and vanished. Now that he's returned to the capital, suddenly you're all affection and loyalty. It's utterly ridiculous. During Qiu Yu's recovery, Prince Rui had spent some nights at concubine Liang's quarters. That must be why she targeted Lady Liang. Qiu Yu, stunned by my blow, covered her face and stared at me, a mix of hurt and shock. Prince Rui erupted on the spot. Xiao Dan, what are you doing? I turned to face the prince, letting out a cold laugh. Your Highness, I won't stand in the way of whom you favor. But knowing full well something was amiss, you dismissed Lady Liang without investigation. That is truly disheartening. Having just returned to the capital, countless eyes watch the Rui prince's residence. Do you wish to be branded ungrateful and heartless? If word reaches His Majesty, how will your Highness explain? Prince Rui's face flushed with anger, yet he was rendered speechless by my words. After silencing the 2 servants presented the evidence. When I rushed over from the main courtyard, I had already ordered an investigation into this matter. The timing was perfect. Both witness testimony and physical evidence were complete, all pointing to Yu. I immediately ordered her to receive 50 lashes. After the punishment, she was to kneel in the ancestral hall, copying Buddhist scriptures to calm her mind. Prince Rui tried to intervene, yet feared the emperor might learn of it. I summoned a physician to examine Lady Liang, only to discover she was pregnant. Upon hearing this news, my thoughts turned inward. Certain matters must now be addressed. Prince Rui was heartbroken by Yu's punishment. He not only summoned renowned physicians to treat her but also visited the Buddhist hall daily to keep her company. Yet within 2 days, Prince Rui ceased his visits to the hall, for he had brought home another woman, taking her as a concubineth new consort Qin. Rumor had it that Lady Qin bore a striking resemblance to Yu. Yet unlike her, Lady Qin excelled in poetry, song, tea brewing, and winemaking, gentle and docile. She was a true flower of understanding. Prince Rui had rescued her from bullies while returning from a trip to the outskirts of the capital. Ever since Lady Qin entered the mansion, Prince Rui had cast Yu completely aside. 3 days passed thus. I thoughtfully released Yu from the Buddhist hall. That very night, Yu resorted to her old tricks, feigning discomfort to lure Prince Rui to the Yaoguang pavilion. But all she received was his curt reply: "If you're ill, see a doctor. I'm no physician." Furious, Yu smashed every object in the Yaoguang pavilion, barely calming her rage. Early the next morning, Consort Qin visited Yu's courtyard to apologize. She blamed last night's events entirely on herself, explaining why the Prince of Rui had ignored Yu. She begged Yu's forgiveness, pleading not to hold it against her. Yu's temper flared, and in the ensuing chaos, Qin Ai stumbled and hit her head on the table, leaving a large bruise on her arm. Prince Rui was heartbroken. He rushed to Yaoguang Pavilion to confront Yu. Yu's defenses crumbled completely, and she quickly got into a heated argument with the prince. Furious, the prince stormed out, imposing house arrest on her before leaving. While the three of them were in an irreconcilable mess, I was enjoying myself in the main courtyard. Wasn't Yu always the one stirring up trouble, relying on Prince Rui's favor? Qin concubine was a Yangzhou courtesan. I especially sought out. Her greatest skill was charming men. Besides, with Yu now bruised and battered, she paled in comparison to the graceful, beautiful Qin concubine. And Prince Rui's decision to bring Yu back wasn't born of deep affection. It stemmed from his lingering resentment over her abandonment years ago. Now that Head regained his power, Head developed this peculiar possessiveness, with a new favorite who suited him better. Prince Rui found Yu increasingly tiresome. The back and forth between Consort Qin and Yu not only gave me some respite but also allowed Consort Liang to quietly rest and nurture her pregnancy. The emperor has recently shown great favor toward my father, entrusting him with the task of managing the floods in Jiangnan. Upon his return, a promotion seems likely. Everything unfolded as anticipated, the situation looking exceptionally promising. Yet within 2 days, Yu stirred up trouble again. During his exile, Prince Rui developed a chronic leg ailment, suffering periodic bouts of pain. Qin concubine, skilled only in the arts of romance and pleasure, had no remedy for such physical ailments. Yu was different. Originally a peasant girl, she knew some folk remedies. Prince Rui's leg ailment eased, lifting his spirits considerably. After so many days of recuperation, Yu's injuries had mostly healed. Perhaps she had proven valuable to Prince Rui, or perhaps he recalled her past kindness. For the past 2 days, Prince Rui had been staying at Yaoguang Pavilion. Seizing this opportunity, Yu proposed to the prince that she open a cosmetics shop. This would bring additional income to the household and ease his financial burdens. After the incident with Nanny Zhou, Prince Rui no longer freely drew from the household treasury, yet he still enjoyed outings with friends, and the meager allowance left them strapped for cash. Yu claimed she possessed ancestral craftsmanship, with minor refinements and a new secret formula. She was certain to make a fortune. After deliberation, Prince Rui agreed. Yet opening a shop required capital. I explained that having just returned to the capital, establishing connections and navigating the bureaucracy demanded funds. If he wished to open a shop, he would need to secure the money himself. The Prince of Rui was displeased. I spread the ledger before him, laying out our recent expenditures in stark detail. He stormed off, for there it was written plainly. The princely household was running a deficit, still reliant on my dowry to cover expenses. I snorted lightly. Of course, this was a fake ledger. Even if the princely household had money, I wouldn't give it to them. Every penny was earned through my own diligent management and hard work. How could I let them squander it recklessly? Prince Rui sold off some treasures from his private treasury, and Yu's shop finally opened. But troubles struck soon after. Many noble ladies and young misses in the capital who used Yu's cosmetics developed rashes on their faces. The shop entrance was swamped with people demanding the manager come out and explain. When the shop first opened, though it bore the Prince Rui's name, I had secretly spread word that it wasn't under my management. Prince Rui, overwhelmed, came to the main courtyard. Daner, as the princess consort, you manage all affairs of the mansion. This matter should be resolved by you. Yu is young and inexperienced. Do not hold it against her. It's merely a matter of compensating with some silver and paying a personal apology. You've handled such matters before in Guazhou. You should be even more adept now. Don't put me in a difficult position. Prince Rui looked at me, his tone implying it was my natural duty to clean up Yu's mess. I sneered inwardly, thinking Prince Rui was utterly shameless. His words came so easily. When we first arrived in Guazhou, we were both exiles. To survive, we had no choice but to bow to appearances. Back then, we were two grasshoppers on the same string merely protecting ourselves. Yet he seems to believe I'd do anything for him. How utterly laughable. I shot back. She's merely a concubine. Hand her over to the authorities. Let the prefect of the capital deal with her. And why should I be the one to pay the silver, lose face, and clean up her mess? Though Prince Rui had grown weary of Yu recently, he naturally preferred she suffer no hardship compared to me. So naturally, I had to be the sacrificial lamb. Enraged by my refusal, Prince Rui threatened to strip me of my stewardship duties and confine me to my quarters. I chuckled softly, unhurried and composed. In that case, I shall have a moment's rest. Your Highness, please proceed as you wish. The Prince of Rui was so enraged he fell backward, pointing at me speechless. When a servant rushed in with news, Yu had already been dragged to the magistrate's office, seated on the reclining couch. A faint smile curved my lips. Knowing full well the Prince of Rui couldn't bear to part with Yu, I had sent men to have her taken to the magistrate's office beforehand. Now that the deed was done, it could be swept under the rug if not brought to light. But with it exposed in court, there was no room for maneuvering. Rage consumed Prince Rui as he glared at me. Chao Tan, you're quite the villain. How dare you defy this prince? I should never have sent men to rescue you back in Guazhou, to keep you alive until now, only for you to become so lawless. His eyes were bloodshot as he pointed at me viciously, smashed the teacup beside him, and stormed out. My heart sank, and a surge of murderous intent filled me. Back in Guazhou, stripped of my title as princess consort, I was just another woman. Prince Rui had inadvertently provoked a gang of local ruffians in Guazhou. To avoid harassment, I had to personally negotiate with them, compelling him to constantly monitor my movements. Despite my constant vigilance, I nearly fell victim to their schemes, yet Prince Rui was nowhere to be found. It was Lady Liang who sensed something amiss and brought me back. Otherwise, my virtue might well have been violated. When I returned, Prince Rui was hiding under the bed. He claimed he feared I'd fail to negotiate and that when the thugs came looking for me, he needed to protect himself. I laughed bitterly in anger. From that moment, I resolved to return to the capital and find the right opportunity to eliminate Prince Rui. Though Qiu Yu wasn't imprisoned, she was publicly flogged with 50 strokes. She was also ordered to compensate each victim 300 taels of silver, carried back barely alive. Her body had turned into a pool of mud beneath her. Even if she somehow survived, she would be left crippled. The prefect of Jingzhou ordered the sale of all items from the Yaoguang pavilion later bestowed by Prince Rui to compensate those noble ladies and young misses. In an instant, the once glorious Yaoguang pavilion became deserted, its desolation chilling. Prince Rui seemed to have forgotten the many outrageous deeds had committed for Qiu Yu's sake. He forgot how just yesterday had clashed with me hidden to defend her. Today, he wallowed in the tender embrace of consort Qin. Prince Rui's heart had always been cold and shallow. He resented his own weakness and lack of talent, unable to carve out a place for himself in the imperial court. From childhood, the emperor had denied him any chance of inheriting the throne. Thus, he grew ever more timid, finding his only sense of worth and existence within the inner quarters. He relished watching women vie for his attention, and reveled in the power he wielded over his wives and concubines. Yet during his years of exile, he had no choice but to rely on me, causing his inner world to twist and conflict. Now, back in the capital, his dislike for me only deepens. Truth be told, he loves himself most of all. Within the inner quarters, he seeks to reclaim every shred of masculine authority denied him in the court. How laughably pathetic. Prince Rui stripped me of my stewardship, handing all household affairs to consort Qin. I've simply shut the main courtyard doors and withdrawn into my own life. Ever since marrying into the prince's household, I've been constantly burdened with responsibilities. Now, at last, I can relax a little, though confined to my quarters. I remain fully aware of every movement within the mansion. Consort Qin has recently become obsessed with magic tricks. Not only has she invited a troupe to perform, but she's also taught herself the art. She entertains Prince Rui so thoroughly he can't stop grinning. He spends all day in Consort Qin's courtyard, refusing to leave. Prince Rui used to suffer from insomnia, but at Consort Qin's side, he sleeps soundly every night. He's become even more inseparable from her. I dismissed my personal maid and turned the final page of the storybook. The tale had reached its conclusion. The heroine overcame all obstacles, achieving a perfect ending. I finished reading with a smile and closed the book. I thought my story should also come to a close. The autumn hunt was approaching, and Prince Rui had no choice but to lift my confinement. I accompanied him to the hunting grounds. Before departure, Prince Rui came to the main courtyard, his tone warning. This autumn hunt, I shall take Yuera with me. Should anyone inquire, say she serves at your side. I release you now, hoping you'll learn your lesson, understand who truly rules this mansion. Do not overstep your bounds again, otherwise, I shall have no place for you here. Do you understand? Yuera was consort Qin. I lowered my gaze, a faint, almost imperceptible smile playing at my lips as I gave a slight nod. The next day at the hunting grounds, the autumn hunt commenced. The emperor, leading the important task, rode a tall horse toward the woods. Young masters and ladies from various households mounted their horses one after another, galloping with dashing grace across the vast grasslands. Even Prince Rui, who usually disdained such affairs, mounted his horse and followed the emperor. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught Lady Qin beside me, head bowed and eyes lowered. I smiled faintly. This very morning, Lady Qin had performed a trick for Prince Rui. An hour later, the hunting grounds suddenly erupted in commotion. Imperial guards carried Prince Rui, covered in blood, out of the woods. The emperor's face was grim, his expression tinged with anxiety and heartache as he looked at Prince Rui. Amidst the crowd's commotion, my gaze unexpectedly met Lady Qin's. Only to quickly avert, I staggered, overcome by profound grief. Supported by a maid, I rushed forward in disbelief to the prince's side. His entire arm was gone, and the wound on his thigh exposed bone. I fainted on the spot. When I awoke, I learned the full story. After entering the woods, they had encountered 2 black bears. Though the Imperial guards were present, the bears were clearly in a frenzied state. Despite the guards' constant protection, one bear seized an opening. Prince Rui threw the Emperor out of harm's way, but nearly met his own end at the bear's claws. The Imperial physician had examined him. Prince Rui's injuries were too severe. If he could survive the night, his life might be spared. Should he fail, there would be no hope left. Even if Prince Rui survived, he would be left crippled, confined to bed for the rest of his days. My face pale, I remained by Prince Rui's bedside, tending to him without rest. Not only did I faint from grief time and again, but I also made pilgrimages to temples, prostrating myself step by step to pray for his recovery. Yet I collapsed again before taking 2 steps. All this was witnessed by everyone, including the Emperor, whether moved by my devotion or not. His Highness finally survived after days of high fever, but whether the fever had scorched his mind or not, he became utterly deranged. With such events this year, the Emperor lost interest in hunting. After His Highness regained consciousness, he returned to the palace. He also dispatched imperial physicians to reside permanently at Prince Rui's residence, providing constant care. Gazing at the bedridden, feeble-minded Prince Rui, I pressed my handkerchief to my eyes just in time to conceal the faint smile tugging at my lips. Everything was over. Prince Rui had become paralyzed and mentally impaired to save the Emperor, who was consumed by guilt. A flood of imperial gifts poured into the Prince Rui's residence as a gesture of consolation to me. After consulting the imperial physicians, the Emperor learned that the Prince Rui could no longer produce an heir. He therefore decided to adopt me as his heir apparent, granting me the title of Crown Prince. Only then did I reveal to everyone that Lady Liang was with child. The Emperor found solace in this, declaring that whatever child Lady Liang bore would be registered under my name, regardless of gender. It would be designated as Crown Prince. Though my heart trembled with shock, my expression remained composed, feigning profound gratitude. After the imperial edict bearer departed, Lady Qin arrived at the main courtyard. She said, "Congratulations, Your Highness. Your wish has been granted. But please do not forget the promise you made to me." She curtsied before me, her demeanor respectful. I offered a faint smile and raised my hand. A maid immediately stepped forward to help Lady Qin rise. Another maid then approached, carrying a tray and a bundle. I said, "I've already redeemed your sister's freedom and secured her legal status. You needn't worry. I'll arrange a new identity for you too. Here are 1,000 taels in silver notes and the deed to a residence. It will ensure you and your sister live comfortably for the rest of your lives." Madame Qin's eyes flickered, her gaze softening as her eyes welled up. After thanking me, she took the items and silently withdrew. The inner chamber was suddenly empty except for me, and an unprecedented sense of relief washed over me. No one knew that concubine Qin was not only Yangzhou's most beautiful courtesan but also possessed the skill of hypnotism. Before the autumn hunt, Prince Rui had been watching magic performances in concubine Qin's courtyard. Those were hypnotic techniques. Before his departure, I had sprinkled a powder on him that drove animals mad. That's why a raging black bear entered the supposedly cleared hunting grounds. The usually timid and cowardly Prince Rui would only risk his life to save the Emperor. Every single thing was my design, all for the purpose of eliminating Prince Rui. After Lady Qin left, I had someone follow her. I am no saint. Had she kept silent, she would have faced no harm. But if she dared reveal anything, her head would roll. The following year, Consort Liang gave birth to a daughter. The Emperor, true to his word, named the infant the Crown Princess, ensuring she would inherit the princely title. I petitioned for Consort Liang to be granted the rank of secondary consort. The child was raised under my care, and she visited daily. During those 3 years of exile, she stayed by my side, silently supporting me. Now, we are companions, raising the child together. My father returned to the capital in the autumn of the second year. His achievements in flood control pleased the emperor greatly, and his rank was elevated twice. He now holds the rank of junior second grade. A pillar of the court. My younger brother performed well in the imperial examinations, his name inscribed on the golden list. He too has entered the court as an official, his future bright and promising. I visit Prince Rui daily, watching him lie paralyzed in bed, gazing upon the prince, now feeble-minded and unable to care for himself. Memories of the past suddenly flood my mind. Everything had vanished like smoke. Sacrificing him alone preserved my lifetime of wealth and glory. Consider it what he owed me. That day, as I left the Prince Rui's residence, word came that Xiaoyu had died. With her death, the light was extinguished. I ordered her burial. Lifting my gaze, I saw the crisp autumn sky, clear and blue. The good days lie ahead. End.